Okay, and the way you apply this information is you can think about all objects as modified basic shapes, right? So in this example here, the grapes have the same light logic as modified spheres. Some are more oblong than others. The skin has a little bit of texture, but the basic logic is spherical, right? It's round. We're not working with planes. Each of these is going to be getting a highlight, light area, a mid-tone area, a core shadow, or reflected light. And the cast shadow depends, how much of that you'll see depends on where it lies in the overall composition. Some of the cast shadows are back here, and then these ones on the surface here are being cast onto the surface. Modified cylinders. And again, I want to make sure you guys are aware you're not using outlines. So in this example, the way we can differentiate the background from the subject is through a shift in tone. No hard outlines. If these were outlined, it would flatten them out. And you can see the background here. It's not completely even, right? It's a little bit darker on this side and a lighter on this side. So it really makes these cylinders pop out. These stacks of books are modified cubes. Another thing to note is that color also has tone. So if we look at this stack of books, this book here is significantly darker than these other three, right? So one explanation for that is that the book itself could be a darker color. So we don't know what color it is, but if I had to guess, it could be like a navy blue or a forest green, whereas the book on top is likely a lighter color, like a light green or orange or yellow. But something to keep in mind is that color does have tone. You can also see this if you take a photograph and you edit it to black and white. You'll notice that that colors have different tones. I also wanted to point out that there's different ways of drawing, of creating value, right? So most of what we're seeing here are blended either graphite or charcoal drawings. But remember, all the way back to line, we talked about contour, network, and cross-hatching lines to create value. So in this example here, it's a little bit of contour network, right? To create the tone on these books. So these are a little rougher than some of the other examples, right? Some cross-hatching going on, and that's fine. So you can experiment with different blending techniques, either on some scrap paper or in your sketchbook. You can use a blending stump, cross-hatching, blending with your finger. I do want to note, if you blend with your finger, just make sure it's clean. If you have a greasy finger or sweaty finger, it's gonna be more difficult. The blending stump's kind of the way to go if you want to make it nice and clean. You can also try like a Q-tip or tissue or another piece of paper. Blending stumps are just paper bound up into a little point, which makes it convenient. Scumbling networks, right? Cross-hatching networks, cross-contour networks. When using charcoal, you can use white chalk to create bright highlights, but use the chalk sparingly because when you mix it with the charcoal, it gets muddy, so you kind of want to just lay the chalk on top of the charcoal. And I'll talk more about the technique of your materials in the demo video. But as you guys are learning how to use these materials, it's a good idea to test them out on some scrap paper before you jump into your Okay, so that's value. And after you have studied these slides for a little bit, you can move on to your exercises and your value project.